Quote, before this fight, I was very like, I know I'm on the back end of my career, so I want to do as many as I can because I know I'm done with this, I'm going to miss it. Okay? I'm trying to do as much as I can, but after this fight, and again, 14 months and 4 fights, it's not just the fights, it's the training and everything. I had injuries going into the Pereira fight, you've seen that. I don't make any excuses. Strickland got me on that night because he was the better fighter on that night. He did his work well, he had a good team behind him. Now I'm going to take time to look after myself, and I'm not going to fight for a long time. I'm definitely not going to retire because I know me. I'm not leaving like that. I know me, but if I did retire, I'm fine. I don't need to prove anything else. But I know what I can do and what I can change in my lifestyle to make my body adapt to where I need to be. I'm going to heal myself. You won't see me fight for a long time. Unquote. And it honestly connects with what he said before. Remember the time when he was talking about like how the motivation might be going away as he's been a dominant champion? He's talked about it before. He's been a champion for a while, very active, fighting consistent championship fights for so many years while being the A side to almost all of these fights as a superstar. It has to take a mental toll on you, of course. He is feeling a bit of burnout, but I think that accelerated with this whole Sean Strickland situation because Sean Strickland pulled absolutely no punches, no pun intended, in the trash talking as well though, not just in the fight itself, beating Adesanya from pillar to post, dog walking him for 5 rounds, but even leading up to the fight, all the trash talk, the press conference, the weigh-ins, everything involved. It may have been a bit too much for Adesanya because he chose to go on hiatus after losing to Strickland specifically. He didn't go on this hiatus after losing to Pereira, where he fought immediately afterward. He decided to not fight for a while after losing to Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland had a major impact on quote-unquote breaking one of the greatest middleweights of all time. Because he didn't just beat Adesanya, it looks like he somewhat broke him. Because you were obviously able to see that Adesanya was not comfortable and even upset at the whole dog situation with Strickland. I mean, Strickland was putting it out all over the public and really going at him for this. And after the fight was done, after he lost his belt to a guy that many people believe was not supposed to beat him, even Adesanya said he was going to destroy Strickland out there, one of the first things he tells Strickland is about the dog, which means that it was on his mind the entire time, probably even in the fight itself. I'm a pretty sympathetic guy. I feel bad for Adesanya somewhat. He is a fighter and stuff, so I absolutely respect him at a very high regard when it comes to his athleticism, what he's accomplished in sport, and all of that stuff. It takes a special individual to do what he was able to do in the ring and in the cage. But we also have to be objective here. This will have to be written down as one of the biggest mental victories, like mental warfare victories. It was different than like what Conor McGregor does, right? Or Chael Sonnen or Dominic Cruz, right? These are some of the best trash talkers in the sport. These guys will usually make it just professional, or they will say some things like before Conor fought Khabib, of course, and Dustin Poirier. I'm talking about the Conor that fought Jose Aldo, for an example, which was his best mental performance. It became kind of performative, you know, it became a bit of a show, and it wasn't necessarily too personal. Chael said some things that were kind of personal against Anderson Silva, of course, but nobody went as personal, like sticking to the straight facts, not making jokes about it too much, sticking to the straight facts and putting the champion's feet to the fire. And it takes a straight talking, honest, not a care in the world, crude man like Sean Strickland to give that to you. I mean, we're talking about a guy in Strickland who didn't even hesitate to talk about the whole Pat Barry and Rose thing right to their face. And for those who know what I'm talking about, I mean, it's kind of crazy to just bring it up to them on a bus and you guys have to ride this with each other for longer. And this is what the guy wants to talk to them about. Out of nowhere too. I think he said he's never even met these two before. And that's the first thing he started talking to them about. Of course he's going to bring up the dog and China to Izzy. Anybody he fights. If there's anybody he fights, he's going to bring up things that probably be a bit offensive, maybe stuff that people need to hear. That's the kind of guy that Sean Strickland will be. And I don't know when Adesanya is going to come back because this changes a lot now. We were expecting Adesanya to fight one of the top contenders, and there were even, I mean, now that it's not happening, thank you that it's not happening, a few people were trying to talk about Adesanya getting an immediate rematch. That's out the window because that was not deserving. That's unfair to the other contenders, completely unfair to them if Adesanya got that immediate rematch. But we were talking about him maybe having a trilogy with Robert Whittaker or fighting Dricus du Plessis because now it seems like Hamza or Kamaru Usman is going to get the middleweight title shot. And it's actually pretty ironic because Kamaru Usman has a win over Sean Strickland, so it creates a little bit of a story dynamic there. A rematch. I don't think Usman would beat Sean Strickland at all. Not these days and not at 185. I don't think Usman would beat Sean Strickland. We have to see how he performs against Hamzat. He might be a whole different beast up here. Doesn't have to cut the weight either as an older guy. But it could be Hamzat. You know, Hamzat's like the biggest star in the middleweight division outside of maybe Adesanya. But we were expecting Izzy to maybe fight Dricus, maybe him fight Cannonier, maybe him fight Robert Whittaker. But now that he's not going to fight for a while, it could potentially leave one man out, because you have Whittaker, Cannonier, and Dricus. 3 top guys that are probably not going to fight anybody else other than each other. And it leads me to believe that the winner of Khamzat and Kamaru Usman gets a title shot. That means you probably have to do Dricus versus Jared Cannonier for the #1 contender fight. I don't like it. I think Dricus should get the title shot. He deserves it. But it seems like they want either Khamzat or Usman. And if that's the way it is, Dricus might have to take another fight. You got to keep the ball rolling. I just hope the guy's doing well, I hope he gets his mind right. I hope he gets his body right. It's not good to see a former champion get into stuff like that. He could probably understand that the fans probably see all this and think that what Strickland did to him leading up to the fight and the fight itself probably took a toll on him. Of course, adding on everything with being a champion, with being a superstar, it's a lot of responsibility, a lot of work to do, and it absolutely can be hard on the mind. He absolutely knows that better than almost anybody else. He's one of the longest reigning champions in UFC history. With everything involved, everybody doesn't like the whole thing about the dog, right? Of course. But at the end of the day, I do hope the guy gets better. It does seem like he needs to work on himself, work on his mindset. Hopefully he gets good mentally, physically, everything involved, and just betters as a person and as a fighter, an athlete, everything, Fighter, athlete, brother, boyfriend, husband, whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? Everything involved. I hope Adesanya does well.